This is a 2016 Mazda 6 GT. This has been my car for almost 2.5 years. This is the midsize sedan from Mazda. Now, when I was looking for a car, I was looking for something that had good gas mileage, that looked good, and I certainly think this car fits the bill. Now, this car competes with cars like the Honda Accord and the Toyota Camry, but for 2016, this was by far the best looking out of the three. This is what a Honda Accord looked like, and this is what a Toyota Camry looked like. So I've done lots of videos on this car before. I've done 5 things I hate about this car, 5 things I love about this car, but I've never actually done a full review. So today I'm going to review it. Now we're going to go over the quirks and features of this car. We're going to talk about some interesting things about it. We're going to get this thing on the road, and then we're going to give it a GEM score. So let's get right into it. Now, to start, I borrowed this car from nobody. It's already my car. I've had this car for like 2.5 years. Now, I've also compiled a list of Mazda owners that are named Dan as well. You could also follow me on Instagram at GemmyD on Cars. Now, starting with the quirks and features on the inside, there's a couple interesting things about here. Now, on the dash, you have your button for your heated seats. You've got 3 different levels of it. But right next to it here, there's like a blank button here. Now, I know for 2017, this is like the heated steering wheel button. But in this car, it sort of messes with my OCD because I want it to just be look the same on both sides. But I don't know if for 2016, they didn't want to give it a heated steering wheel. But for 2017, they decided to use this blank switch. It's just a weird feature that kind of bothers me still. Now, this car is the GT spec, which stands for Grand Touring. So this is sort of the top of the line Mazda 6 for 2016. Now, one interesting feature this car has is the heads-up display. Now, in 2019, like all cars do now, the heads-up display is a pretty common feature. But this one is interesting because it's like a little piece of plastic that flips up. You know, it gives you information about your like if you have something entered into the navigation, it'll say like in zero point 0.2 miles turn left or in 220 feet make a right turn. It's nice. I just wish that it was like every other car where it's projected up into the windshield. It's kind of gimmicky. I mean, but this car is from 2015 and this is 2019. So you can sort of see how the technology for the heads-up display is sort of advanced over the years. I like it. It's just when it's in the winter, sometimes it won't want to flip up and down, but that's okay. But overall, this car has basically everything you would need as far as safety and technology. It does not have the radar cruise control. You can see in the grille that where it would be with the big Mazda logo, but you've got lane keep assist. You know, it'll beep at you. You've got lane departure warnings. It has a little orange car in the mirrors. So for 2016, this was a loaded car for the time, and you could see how the competition is sort of caught up. Now, one other interesting feature of this car is, you know, the car I had before this was gray with a black interior, so I ended up getting the white with the, they call it parchment color interior. But on the back of the seats, it has like the stitching where there's like white stitching on one side and black with the red stitching. I've always loved this combination of the stitching on the back of the seats. You don't usually notice it, but I love the stitching. We've also got the stitching here on the dash. But yeah, this is a nice place to be. Now, one other weird thing about this car that I have never really used that much because it just doesn't work too well, it's called the HD Radio Traffic Mag. Now, if you go into it in the main screen in the applications using the little quick wheel here, it supposedly shows you like where the traffic is around the state. I mean, I live in Pennsylvania, so it shows like the central Pennsylvania area with all the highways, but usually it just doesn't work. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I could do to update it. It's like if I want to see what the traffic is, I'll just go on my phone and Google Maps. But this has always been a feature that's been kind of frustrating because it doesn't really work too well. I mean, you can go up and down with the little click wheel, but I mean, on a Sunday, the traffic's not going to be too bad. When I've needed it to work, it hasn't worked. Now, you control everything up on the main screen with the click wheel right here, which I honestly like because I can still be looking at the road and just put my hand right here on the little quick wheel. You've got the shortcut buttons down here for the home screen, nav, music, favorites. You got your volume right here. And I like it. I don't like to touch the screen. You can use it as a touch screen, but I like to use the little wheel right here. So that is one thing that's like ergonomically it works well because my hand just falls right here. So I like what Mazda's done with the little quick wheel and the screen. Now the back of this car is so luxurious. I fit my daughter back here, but it is so luxurious. This is what it looks like with yogurt covered pretzels. Mm. Now, the styling in the front of this car is what immediately drew me to this car. I still think today in 2019, this is one of the best looking cars in the midsize segment. I mean, there's actually one feature that this car has that I don't think any other car has, but we're gonna have to wait till it's nighttime to show you. It actually has the lights that go completely down the grille the whole way, and I don't think any other car has that. Now you've got the standard daytime running lights. They're LEDs. You've got LED low beams, you know, for nighttime driving as well. But I still just think the lines of this car look so nice. Now, I mentioned before, this is where the radar cruise control would be, but it's not. It's just sort of like the normal Mazda. This car, I think, is still gorgeous 3 years later. Now, staying with the theme of the lines of the car and just about the design, this line right here is sort of like a typical design element of Mazda's. The RX-7 and the RX-8 have it. It's just another sort of interesting feature of the side of the car that really I think looks good. The RX-8 really pulls it off well too, and I hope Mazdas in the future have this line too. Now in the back here, there's nothing too crazy about it, but this has the industry standard sort of silver bar that lots of cars have. I love the LED lights right here. You've got sort of like the three elements, just like the front daytime running lights. But yeah, I think it's just very nice. I covered up the reverse lights here, just smoked them a little bit just for aesthetics, and I think it looks pretty good. But yeah, this is nothing too crazy back here. You've got nice sort of exhaust tips. The turbo car has the exhaust tips are just a little bit bigger, and they look pretty nice. Alright, so we are driving the Mazda6 now. Just going to go on some little bit of twisty roads and get it out on the highway and see what it feels like. Now this car is a 6-speed automatic transmission, 184 horsepower, 187 foot-pounds of torque, so it's not going to light the world on fire, but as a daily driver, you know, commuter car, this car is actually perfect. I mean, for me, sure, I'd love it to have a little bit more horsepower, but, you know, as an overall package, it's okay as far as horsepower goes. We are coming up to my favorite driving road. Now, if you follow my channel, I've done a video on this, and you will know that this is my favorite driving road, just because it has a little bit of twisties, and you can test out the handling a little bit. It's got a little bit of elevation changes too, so look for that video too. Now, the other reason why I like Mazdas is because they are more sporty as opposed to luxury. I mean, a Honda Accord and a Toyota Camry, they have similar specs to this car, but Mazda just feels a little bit sportier to me, I think. You know, they've had the pedigree of the Mazda Miata for 30 years. You know, they know how to build a sports car, and you can sort of tell after driving this car that they know what they're doing. It's my favorite little elevation change. Now, if I'm honest, this car doesn't really sound. It doesn't really sound like much of anything. I mean, you've got a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder, but that's okay. Now, we also have paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel. Just let you have a little bit more fun as opposed to just slapping it in D and going. Now, this car also has a sport mode, which we're going to go into when I get onto the highway. Basically, it lets you hold on to the gears a little bit longer. It has a little bit crisper throttle response. Alright, I'll put it in sport mode right now. Yeah, I mean, when you really step on the gas, you know, it sounds a little bit, it sounds like a 4-cylinder, which not all 4-cylinders sound great, and this one really doesn't, but that's okay. You know, I'm okay with driving a car that looks as good as this car. You know, you sacrifice the sound a little bit, but it's okay. Now, in everyday driving mode, I mean, obviously this is my car as a daily driver, and I drive this car damn near every day. It is so comfortable. One thing that I loved about the WRX STI, you know, that's like the race version, you know, track-focused, hardcore version of the WRX, but that car was so unbelievably comfortable. And this car is even more comfortable than that, so this has so much comfort. I've driven this car to Pittsburgh and back many times. I've never once felt like my ass was asleep. I mean, the seats are nice and perfectly comfortable. It is just a unbelievably comfortable car, and that is something that is very important when you're driving a car. So the performance is okay. The sound is not great. I won't lie about it. The comfort is incredible. Alright, so we're gonna get on the highway. I've got it in sport mode. I've got the paddle shifters on just to feel a little bit more sporty. I mean, this is no sports car, but we're gonna give it the beans and just see how it works out. Alright, so here we go. not slow. It's not slow, but it's not fast. I mean, I must have got up to like 5,000 RPMs, and that's just fine. You know, at this stage in life, I'm more concerned about having a family car, you know, that'll keep my kid and my wife safe. But yeah, this car, as far as looks go, I think they nailed it. Absolutely hit it out of the park. The features are nice. Now, I've done a video where I basically broke down how you could either buy this car, which was a 2016 Mazda 6 Grand Touring, fully spec'd, every single option, or you could buy a base level BMW 3 Series. So I think this car stacks up well to a base level BMW 3 Series, and I think that is saying something for Mazda. So that is the 2016 Mazda 6 Grand Touring. Now, this has been a great car for me. I would honestly recommend Mazdas to anybody. When people ask me what car I should get, as far as it's a mid-sized SUV, a bigger SUV, or even like a family sedan, I honestly say Mazda. And obviously I'm biased because this is my car, but I honestly think Mazda design, they have been killing it so far. The CX-5 is gorgeous. You've always had the Mazda Miata, which is a nice little sports car. This car is gorgeous. The Mazda CX-9 that I actually drove, I absolutely loved it. I mean, if you just look at this car for what it is, it could compete with a BMW or an Audi because I think the level of materials and quality is right up there with the best of them. So now it's time to give this car a Gem score.
Starting with the weekend categories and styling, I gave it a 9. I honestly think it's the best looking car in the mid-size segment. Performance, I give it a 4. It's nothing too crazy. Fun factor, I'll give it a 6 for a total weekend score of 19. Next up with the daily categories. Price, I'll give it an 8. I got this car a year old and I saved about $8,000 off of a new one. Sound, I'll give it a 4. It's a 4-cylinder. It doesn't sound too good. Interior, I gave it an 8. I like this. I like the materials, the contrasting stitching, the different colors. Finally, comfort, I gave it a 9. This is honestly an unbelievably comfortable car for a daily score of 29 points. Added up, and the Gem score is 48 points out of 70. Here's how it stacks up against some of the competitors. Now, it's the only car I've given 48 to. I haven't driven too many other sedans that are in this category, but 1 point more is the brand new BMW 330. Same with the X3. I actually gave the Navigator a score of 1 point better too. So overall, I love this car. It's a great car for me.